Had to go off on those jokers for a little bit. But anyways, kickoff segment. We are starting NBA playoffs. And let's start on the East Coast where the playoff series are boring. All of them have been basically determined. 3 sweeps and 1 upcoming gentleman's sweep that I already foresee. I already see it. I seen it coming. I just see it already. There's no point of even playing the 5th game. It's going to be a gentleman's sweep. Let's go ahead and get to the second round of the East because honestly, it has not been competitive at all. So, like I said, there's been 3 sweeps. The Miami Heat over the Indiana Pacers, the Celtics over the terrible Sixers, and the Raptors over the Nets. And honestly, none of these are surprising except for the Celtics over the Sixers. I don't think anyone really anticipated them to sweep them. I think after game 1, I was already out on the Sixers. I was like, they're about to get whooped because that was their best chance of winning. I believe it was game 1. So they got swept. Brett Brown gets fired. I'll get into that a little bit later. We already called for that. But I do expect the Pacers, Sixers, and Nets to be more competitive next year. This is just not their time. It's the bubble. It just wasn't competitive. None of those teams are really at full strength, to be honest. And the Heat, Celtics, Raptors, and Bucks. So the Bucks are playing the Magic. They're up 3-1. Like I said, it's going to be a gentleman's sweep. They're going to end it in 5. The Magic put up the best fight they could in the East. They're the only team that didn't get swept in the first round. So kudos to the Orlando Magic and Markelle Fultz, who also was contaminated, or maybe he was the one that contaminated the Sixers with what he got. So unfortunately, the East has just been a disaster. But we anticipate this. Round 2 is definitely going to be a lot better than round 1. We could foresee that. The final 4 teams in the East are going to be the Heat, Celtics, Raptors, and Bucks. And the round 2 matchups, we're going to have Boston versus the Raptors, and then we're going to have the Bucks versus the Heat. And I'm already talking as if the Bucks are going to do the gentleman's sweep. And maybe by the time you see this video, they have already completed the gentleman's sweep of the Orlando Magic, or what's left of the Orlando Magic. But anyways, round 2, Boston versus the Raptors. I personally believe the winner of this series will be going to play for the championship. I don't even know if they're going to deem it the NBA Finals. They really shouldn't. But in this case, whoever wins this series between the Celtics and the Raptors will be going to the NBA Finals to compete against the team coming out of the West. And we don't know who's coming out of the West. The West has actually been pretty competitive for the most part. And honestly, I think the Celtics and the Raptors are both equipped to beat the Bucks or the Heat, whoever they would meet in the Eastern Conference Finals. So, again, I'm going to start paying more attention to NBA basketball in round 2. Round 1 has been an embarrassment, especially on the East. I'm glad that I have not watched my Sixers play. They haven't given me a reason to watch them play. And honestly, once Ben Simmons was hurt before the series, I was already out on them. There wasn't, it wasn't going to happen. And I'll get into a little bit more on the Sixers in my final take, which would be my victory formation. So more to come on the Sixers. I'm going to go off on them. So make sure you keep an ear out on that. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I will leave a link right here. Or no, right here. Sorry, right here. And that's going to pop up. It's going to show you me talking about the Sixers in more detail. But anyways, going to the West, this one, again, has been a lot more competitive. We have 2 series right now that are tied, that are dead even. So we got the Clippers and Mavericks, which probably everyone's really watching. That is the most competitive series that I've seen and the most interesting and the most exciting series that we have seen this far into the playoffs. So Clippers, Mavericks, 2-2, Luka hitting that game winner, a little lucky, but it's Luka time. You could tell dude is made he's big time. Dude's big time. I don't care if he airballed a few threes prior to that. The dude is big time. He's averaging over 30 points a game in the play, at least in these first 4 games, and in the bubble has been ripping it up. So Luka Doncic should have been the number 1 overall pick, and that is something else I'll get into a little bit later. it's going to be pretty heavy NBA in this podcast. And then the Lakers Blazers. Let's get actually hold on. Clippers Mavericks. I think this one's going 7 games. I think I talked about this in the previous podcast. I think this one's going 7 games. The Mavericks are dangerous, man. They're dangerous. They have an opportunity, and maybe they might be a year out, but they have an opportunity to compete and potentially represent the West. I think that they have that many pieces to make that type of run, but I think the inexperience will get to them, especially when they move on. If they end up moving on to the next round, that inexperience is going to get to them, and I don't know if they'll be able to hang with a team like the Lakers or the Rockets, to be honest. And the Rockets are having trouble as well. So getting into that series, the Rockets also tied 2-2 with the Thunder. No one expected this. If you were to ask me what one series would be a sweep, then I would have said the Rockets Thunder. But now they're tied 2-2. Obviously, we know Russell Westbrook is not there. James Harden is there, though. Everyone's talking about James Harden, being the best shooting guard in the league, or, top 5 shooting guard of all times. I've heard people say that. Unfortunately, it's embarrassing. But he's tied with the Thunder. The OKC Thunder. That's not a good look. I didn't anticipate this. If this goes 7 games, that's going to be big embarrassing. The fact that it has to go 6 games for the Rockets to clear out the Thunder is also embarrassing. But Thunder has some veterans. Chris Paul, he's not going to let them just fall apart and just crumble under the pressure. So I got respect for him. But I think the Rockets, on paper, should be whooping the Thunder easily, at least 5 games. So that one's weird. But update to the Jazz Nuggets. So this one actually just ended, right before the show started. This series is at 3-2. So Jazz got it 3-2. They had an opportunity to close it out in 5 games. They were not able to do that. It was close going into the end of the fourth quarter. So I think with like 3 minutes left, it was tied. I want to say it was 101 or it was 110 all. So the Jazz, I think, will end up finishing this off in 6 games. But this one has also been a very competitive series and an exciting series. I enjoy this one. Again, this one and the Clippers Mavericks have been, for me, the more exciting series of the other ones that have been played. Again, not really great basketball in the round 1 besides those 2 series. I mean, you can make arguments for specific games and other series, but I'm talking about a series in whole. And then lastly, you have the Lakers Blazers. Man, I mean, you guys just don't listen to me, man. I said this in the Hail Mary segment after the Lakers went down 1-0 to the Portland Trail Blazers. Dame Dollar was, already being crowned the king, and, he was supposed to be the next coming of Michael Jordan after they beat the Lakers in game 1. I said, hold on. Let's hold on a second. Let's take a deep breath. Let's remember what Dame Lillard has done in the playoffs. Again, he has his games. He has he usually takes over games. When they're up, they're front runners, man. The Portland Trail Blazers are front runners. That's the best way I could say it. They're front runners. And when times get tough, they just aren't able to step up to the plate and make those type of plays and win those type of games. And that's why you see them now down 3-1 to the Lakers and about to get hit with the gentleman's sweep. I predicted this after 1 game. Everyone was sold on, this series is going 7 games. I was like, no. This thing is going to be, I still think the Lakers are going to win 4 in a row. And we all know that Dame Lillard got injured, jammed his finger a few times, but he's out for game 5. So you can almost stick a fork in the Blazers. They're not winning game 5. And if they do, then that's embarrassing on the Lakers, because if they can't beat, a Portland team without Dame Lillard, that's embarrassing. But I anticipate them to do that. I anticipate them to close in 5 games and move on to the next round. So again, I'm excited for the second round. I'm more excited for round 2 than I am about the first round of the playoffs. It hasn't been great, and I anticipate it to get better because this is not really playoff basketball, if you ask me. Playoff basketball is a lot more tough, it's a lot more physical, it's a lot more defense, and what I've seen in the first round is not that. There's no defense, a lot of scoring, referees. Usually in the playoffs, the referees don't swallow the whistle, but you usually see less foul calls. The referees, this is like regular season. I mean, how they're reffing these games. And that's not playoff basketball. That's usually why you see the Rockets and James Harden get kicked out in the playoffs, because he doesn't get all those ticky-tack fouls. He doesn't go to the free throw line all the time. The playoffs are supposed to be called different. It's physical. Everybody's going to be more physical. Referees are going to allow a little bit more, just a little bit more. They're not going to call every single thing, and that's what happened with the Houston Rockets year in and year out. James Harden is hoping for specific fouls that he's gotten during the regular season, and I can't blame him. If they're going to call it in the regular season, you got to call it in the playoffs, but the playoffs is just not that, man. People are playing a lot more physical, and these referees know that there's a lot on the line. They can't just be calling these crazy fouls and allowing him to go to the foul line to shoot 20, 25 free throws. Man, that's ridiculous. So I just want to get that off my chest. Let's go ahead and get that off my chest. But first and 10, like I said, second round for the NBA playoffs. I'm super excited. We're going to have a lot more content on that. First round, I'm just kind of, going over it because, again, it's not really interesting to me. But anyway, thanks for stopping by. Make sure you guys hit that subscribe button for more fire sports takes. And for those of you who are on the go, make sure you subscribe to our full show, which airs every Thursday on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and a bunch more. Until then, I'm chucking it up, and I'll see you guys next time.